cloud shrine for this evening. But as I looked into the Tara cabin, I saw that the shrine there has changed as well. It's looking beautiful. And a four-armed Avalokitesvara has appeared in the beautiful circle there. And here at Adhisthana, we've got the beautiful 1,000-armed Avalokitesvara Rupa that's often used for ordinations, is here on the shrine this evening. So I'm going to start by saluting the shrine, and I would encourage you to do the same if you have a shrine. Let's do it together. Taraloka, hopefully as well. Maybe somebody there would like to salute the shrine. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Namah, Om Ahom. Great, well I just realised we could have done that in call and response with Taraloka cabin, but I haven't done that yet. But we'll try doing call and response later in the evening. Vimokshini did it beautifully last night. And it's lovely just to have that sense of calling and being met in that. So we'll do that later in the evening. And tonight we are continuing our introductions to members of the Padma family. And Vimokshini gave us a beautiful introduction to Amitabha last night. And tonight I'm going to be talking about Avalokitesvara, which is the sadhana practice that I currently have taken. So it wasn't the practice I took at ordination. So at ordination I took Vajrasattva, and I practiced Vajrasattva, fairly faithfully for 10, 11 years in different ways and formats. And I think if it's okay to say, including a yoga practice. Vajrasattva got me on my yoga mat to purify. And at some point, maybe 4 years ago, Vajrasattva started to kind of tell me two things, really. One, every time I went to do the sadhana, he kind of just said, there's nothing to do. And I'll be like, you sure? Can I put you in the blue sky? And there was just this sense of Vajrasattva was like, there's just nothing to do. Really inviting me to rest and relax back. And the other thing that began to happen, and this happened on a retreat at Taraloka. Vajrasattva holds the Vajra at his heart with an open palm. And suddenly this mudra began to shift. And the open palm turned into two hands holding and cupping the Vajra. So I got really curious about this. It was kind of like, what is going on? Something's changing, something's shifting. So I find the kind of mudra very curious. And I started to get the sense of Avalokitesvara. And you'll know the four-armed Avalokitesvara holds the Chintamani, the wish-fulfilling jewel, at his heart. So I decided to get curious about Avalokitesvara. And then kind of the next thing I knew in my kind of imagination, I grew an arm. And the arm was holding a crystal mala. And I don't have a crystal mala, mine broke. But I just became fascinated by this arm. And I didn't, in some way, I knew that Avalokitesvara was the bodhisattva of compassion, but I'd never really looked closely at the four-armed form. And I wasn't really aware of all the symbology in some ways of Avalokitesvara. And I didn't really bother to find out. I just sat with this sense of holding something at my heart, holding a wish at my heart, and this one arm with the mala. And I just had this sense of the beads going through the fingers. And Avalokitesvara holds a crystal mala, and for some reason the crystal became immensely fascinating, just immensely fascinating. So in that way, Avalokitesvara began to draw me in. And this is, for me, I think it's my way in some ways of approaching the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It's just as Vidimala has said most of this week, follow your interest. What's interesting to you? Go where the interest and the curiosity is. And this is how I think I formed my relationship with Vajrasattva and Avalokitesvara and other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that I like to hang out with from time to time. So Avalokitesvara kind of began to draw me in, and I didn't explore intellectually in any way. I just sat with those kind of mudras, those feelings, and the sensation of that, and how it kind of drew me in. And what began to happen was Avalokitesvara, I think, began to invite me into a bigger perspective. And again on a retreat, this time it was an order retreat on the Bodhicitta, led by Prakasha. It was Avalokitesvara who kept coming into my heart. Avalokitesvara, who I was breathing with, doing the kind of Tonglen part of that practice. And I was having a sense, and lots of my meditations were full of an eagle just soaring on those beautiful warm currents, in high up in the brilliant blue sky, effortlessly kind of like circling, wingspan huge. But this sense of the eagle kind of like just having this much bigger perspective, looking down, surveying the world, seeing so much more than we can see from our kind of land-based point of view. That was really beautiful. And the words at that time were a bigger perspective. I was really being invited to see from a bigger perspective. And then lo and behold, I was asked to take on a role with a bigger perspective, which is the reason I've come here to Adhisthana, to take on a role for the order as international order convener. And at that point, in a way, everything was fine. Everything was going fine for me in Cambridge. My life was really good. I had really good conditions. I had really lovely friends, and many of them are here on this retreat. So hello to all of you. But I think I just remember cycling around Cambridge, and I'd look at people and think, well, are they happy? And they look happy. Are they happy? And am I happy? Well, I'm kind of happy. But I could feel this kind of rub. In a way, I kind of got to know it as kind of like the ill-fitting cartwheel. Everything seems kind of fine, but there's this rub of unsatisfactoriness. And I began to see that kind of more and more clearly, I think. Funny that I kept looking at other people. That lovely family on the common having a picnic, they look very happy. But there was something about, kind of mundane, ordinary happiness that's lovely, but it wasn't enough. And I knew that I needed to kind of expand my kind of horizons, and I really wanted to challenge myself more in my practice. So I accepted the role of International Order Convener, really having no idea what I was taking on, but knowing that Avalokitesvara had been inviting me to step into this bigger realm. And it has been a challenge in terms of seeing from a bigger perspective. So at that time, I asked Parami if she would give me the four-armed Avalokitesvara practice, because I'd felt this shift in my practice, and she had been the previous international order convener, and we happened to be in India on the order convention. So at the Mahabodhi temple, under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, Parami gave me the sadhana of the four-armed Avalokitesvara, and it was pretty magical. It was pretty magical. One of the things I remember when she led me through that sadhana was that at the end she said, I told you the other night that Amitabha is in the top knot of Avalokitesvara, just kind of above him as the head of the family. And she said, now Amitabha dissolves into the body of Avalokitesvara. And the red of Amitabha just dissolved into the white of Avalokitesvara, kind of like just a tiny drop of red paint dissolving into a big pool of white paint. So that all of a sudden there was just this pinky tone, which was really beautiful. And Avalokitesvara is actually the colour of a conch shell. So he's not pure white, he's got this beautiful pinkish tinge, which is really beautiful. So Parami, we had a handover ceremony when Parami handed on this role to me, and she decided to have a new tradition of a ritual object. So she asked Bhante to bless two four-armed Avalokitesvara rupas to give to myself and Lokeshvara, that we will at one point hand on to other people who take on this role. And I think it's really lovely having ritual objects for our kind of responsibilities within the movement, within the order. So this is my four-armed Avalokitesvara from Bhante. Let's see if I can get him up a bit closer. It's really beautiful. It's in the kata that he gave it to me in, and it was blessed by him. And the day that the handover happened was one of the best days of my life, truly one of the best days of my life, because Bhante was handing this on to me. Bhante actually made it to that ceremony. It was at an area order weekend, and it was his last public appearance before he died. And he was just well enough. He'd become really well and really happy. So when I invited him to come, he said yes, he'd come. And we thought he'd come just for 20 minutes, but he stayed for the whole event of the handover. So all of a sudden I was taking a deep breath going, oh my God, I'm going to speak in front of Bhante. And I felt the weight of that, but I felt the joy of that and the sense of lineage. Bhante, Parami, myself, and all the other people who've been international order convener as well. So, just sharing that with you really, because it's very much part of Avalokitesvara, my practice of Avalokitesvara, because he gives me courage in a way to step into this bigger perspective. And of course, that bigger perspective I'll come on to in a minute just requires a lot of love, a lot of love. So Avalokitesvara literally means the Lord who looks down. And a bit, I think sometimes that I could get into a situation where I'm feeling like he looks down on me to judge me, like, oh, those poor wretched beings. Kind of in this samsaric world with all their faults and all their follies. But that is just not the perspective of Avalokitesvara. And in my practice, what I've come to really appreciate is he is like just totally based in love and wanting the best for us, wanting the best and the most of us, our well-being really. And so I'm struggling to find the words because it's his perspective isn't hard to describe in words. But basically, Avalokitesvara really, really, really wants us to be well, and he really wants us to be happy, and he really wants us to find freedom. And I see that sense of him totally absorbed in meditation for us in that sense. And each bead of the mala is a being saved. So we know that the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara made a great vow to save all beings in Tibet, all the people of Tibet. Great Bodhisattva vow. And he vowed that if he wavered, if he gave up on that vow, that he would shatter into 1,000 pieces. He wanted to, kind of really carry that vow through. But of course, after meditating for some time, he came out of his meditation and realized he hadn't saved even 1/100th of beings in Tibet. And that led him to despair, and that led him to be dispirited and to kind of give up hope. And at that moment, we know that giving up hope, he shattered into 1,000 pieces. Such a beautiful story. Such a beautiful story, that kind of this great vow that's impossible. And I love Vidyamala every time she says, what's being asked in the Lojong slogans is outrageous. It's outrageous. And in a way, this vow that Avalokitesvara made is also outrageous. But it's the kind of outrageous that we just need. We need this big vision. We need to know what's possible. We need to stretch ourselves. And through stretching ourselves, this is when we can really come up against our limits. We can find our limits. And we can find the limits that come from ego clinging. We can find the limits that stop us from opening up, relaxing, seeing from that bigger perspective. So it's just a really important image of growth. We have to come up against our limits to grow. When we come up against our limits and kind of bang our head against that brick wall for the millionth time and realize that's not the answer, something deeper needs to let go. And it can be humiliating, can feel like failure, but that's really where the gold is. That's really where the gold is in terms of growth. At the beginning of the pandemic, my 6-year-old nephew secretly recorded a song on his dad's iPhone, out in the dark, with his hoodie up, and he sang this little song. Mistakes are how you learn, mistakes are how you learn, mistakes are how you learn. And he had a whole little song about how his teacher told him that it's okay if you make a mistake. And that's how you learn today. And it's just so beautiful. We've adopted the song here at Adhisthana in the women's community and sing it to each other, like when we kind of muck up or, kind of find ourselves in a situation a little bit humiliating or something. In the Buddha sense, this is about kind of like relaxing the ego, letting the ego kind of break down, kind of letting the ego story die down or unwind the ego, as Vidyamala's been saying. And the 1,000-armed Avalokitesvara is how Amitabha gathers Avalokitesvara back together and puts him together in a form that is expanded, that has more tools in his hands and at his disposal to reach all beings, that has 11 heads with Amitabha at the top to really be able to have that breadth of vision, to see all beings and see what they need. So the 1,000-armed Avalokitesvara is a symbol of consciousness. It's completely transformed by bodhicitta. So in this way, we can grow bigger. So in my own practice, I started to realize that the emphasis on this crystal mala and the saving beings was getting a little bit lopsided. And I realized, oh, there's a whole other arm. There's a whole other arm of Avalokitesvara that I could pay attention to. And in the other hand, Avalokitesvara holds the lotus, the symbol for growth, the symbol for spiritual growth, the symbol of beauty, the symbol of love. So it's been really lovely to kind of take that part of Avalokitesvara in more. Because to turn towards others, to turn towards myself, to turn towards others, we just do need this big, big love. We need metta that keeps turning towards, keeps meeting suffering, and is not overwhelmed by it. More easily said than done, as I think we're all finding out this week. But what else can we do? We really, well, for myself, I feel I really need to make that effort. So we've got the two hands. Let's bring my other hand in there. And then the Chintamani at the heart. And in my practice, I often then kind of use the portal of the hands into the heart of Avalokitesvara, where there is the red seed syllable Hri. And around the seed syllable is the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. And it circles around the seed syllable. And as it revolves around, for me it changes from white, the lettering changes from white to the colours of the 6 realms. So Avalokitesvara is really concerned with seeing all beings, no matter where you are, in a hell realm, in an animal realm, kind of jealous God, in the God realm, oblivious, enjoying all the pleasure, in the human realm, the hungry ghosts. So colour starts to emanate, the light is coloured and penetrates towards all those worlds to touch beings and transform them. It's just this, I think that's why I've got the rainbow here tonight, just that sense of, again, the sense of the mandala, the Buddha mandala and the colours, the light refracting through a prism, that then we can see the different aspects of Buddhahood or different aspects of suffering. So the suffering can be transformed into the wisdoms. Yeah. So the mantra's always been quite curious to me. Jewel in the lotus. And I often just repeat it to myself. What does it mean? Jewel in the lotus. The jewel in the lotus. It's probably one of the most famous mantras. Most people have probably heard it. You see it all over northern India and Tibet in the Mani walls. It's painted kind of on rocks. But what does it really mean? And I just came across a reference that I've never seen before that says it probably originally meant something like, may I be reborn in Sukhavati, I, the jewel in the lotus. And the jewel in the lotus is in Sukhavati. Maybe you knew that. I don't think I did. I don't really think about Sukhavati so much. I'm a bit focused on transforming suffering, really. But the effect of the Avalokitesvara sadhana is that through the transforming light of Avalokitesvara's heart, is that all beings experience bliss. And the bliss is the bliss of Sukhavati. Sukhavati is the happy land, the blissful land. And in Sukhavati, which is Amitabha's pure land, everything is the Dharma. Everything is the Dharma. Everything is transformed, in the Dharma perspective, so that people are happy there. Yes, it's just the natural attitude. It's not like something that, because I was thinking I was going to do a reading on the Pure Land of Sukhavati, and it just sounds a bit impossible. Um, but it becomes the natural attitude, compassion, kindness, caring, discernment, being ethical, which of course is probably our deepest heart wish, that we lived in a world like that, where people take care of each other and look out for each other. So in a way, this is the bigger perspective that Avalokitesvara invites us into, to practice, to try and create the conditions wherever possible for that kind of world to be possible. And there's a reading from Bhante when he actually takes people through the Avalokitesvara sadhana, and at the end he does kind of like take you into this vision of Sukhavati. And I was really interested that at the end of that sadhana, everything dissolves except for Sukhavati. And Bhante suggests that you just get up off your cushion and walk out into the world as though you are in Sukhavati. And that is a beautiful vision. So I think I'll leave it there and leave us with that possibility, really, that perhaps we can start to see through Avalokitesvara's eyes. Perhaps we can see through what it might be like to be in Sukhavati, where everyone's happy, because we have the Dharma perspective, and we treat each other with that view in our heart. So, I'll leave it there. It's kind of really a personal kind of intro in terms of, well, not an introduction, but it's introduction to me and my practice more than anything else, which I do really, really enjoy and love. And I know it's not easy for everybody, or it's not so easy for everybody to connect with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but I hope maybe some of the things I've said might just give you some ways into that, really kind of find the beauty and go with your interest. So I'm just going to bow to my Avalokitesvara here from Bhante, bow to my Yidam. And what I'd like to do is read the Heart Sutra. And I wanted to do that because it's Avalokitesvara teaching Shariputra from the deepest depths of his vision, compassion and wisdom. And it's something we all know, so it's not new input. So I'm going to read the Heart Sutra and you can join me. Then we'll go over to the Taraloka cabin and we'll have the Avalokitesvara mantra. And then we'll sit in silence until the end of the evening. I'll ring a bell and transfer merits in call and response with Taraloka. And then that will be the end of our evening. Okay, so just make yourself comfortable. The Heart Sutra. The Bodhisattva of compassion, when he meditated deeply, saw the emptiness of all five skandhas and sundered the bonds that caused him suffering. Here then, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is only emptiness, emptiness only form. Feeling, thought and choice, consciousness itself, are the same as this. All things are by nature void. They are not born or destroyed, nor are they stained or pure, nor do they wax or wane. So, in emptiness, no form, no feeling, thought or choice, nor is there consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no colour, sound, smell, taste, touch, or what the mind takes hold of, nor even active sensing, no ignorance or end of it, nor all that comes of ignorance, no withering, no death, no end of them. Nor is there pain or cause of pain, or cease in pain, or noble path to lead from pain, not even wisdom to attain. Attainment too is emptiness. So know that the Bodhisattva, holding to nothing whatever, but dwelling in prajna wisdom, is freed of delusive hindrance, rid of the fear bred by it, and reaches clearest nirvana. All Buddhas of past and present, Buddhas of future time, using this prajna wisdom, come to full and perfect vision. Hear then the great Dharani, the radiant peerless mantra, the prajna paramita, whose words allay all pain. Hear and believe its truth. Gate gate paragate, parasangate bodhisvaha. Gate gate paragate, parasangate bodhisvaha. Gate gate paragate, parasangate bodhisvaha.
Om Mani Padme
Transference of merit and self-surrender. May the merit gained.
May the merit gained.
In my acting thus.
In my acting thus.
Go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
Go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
My personality throughout my existences.
My personality throughout my existences.
My possessions.
My possessions.
And my merit in all three ways.
And my merit in all three ways.
I give up without regard to myself.
I give up without regard to myself.
For the benefit of all beings.
For the benefit of all beings.
Just as the earth and other elements.
Just as the earth and other elements.
Are serviceable in many ways.
Are serviceable in many ways.
To the infinite number of beings.
To the infinite number of beings.
Inhabiting limitless space.
Inhabiting limitless space.
So may I become.
So may I become.
That which maintains all beings.
That which maintains all beings.
Situated throughout space.
Situated throughout space.
So long as all have not attained.
So long as all have not attained.
To peace.
To peace.
Thank you, everyone, for another very full, rich day, full of, I'm sure, many, many experiences. I can't believe another day is about to begin. Not to, again. It's been lovely practicing with you all. Sleep well, and see you all whenever we see you in the morning.